Alright, so we got a little bit of congressional beef going on right now. I guess that's what you would call it, between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jamal Bowman. So there's a lot to get into here for obvious reasons, I'm guessing, based on the headline that I'm going to go with for this video. But it all started with this sort of like conversation, heated conversation, I guess, between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jamal outside of Congress, where, you know, you're going to see what they're talking about here, okay? So let's just watch a little bit of this clip, and I just want you guys to focus on the body language of both of these people, the tone of both of these people, and we're going to circle back around to that after we watch it. So let's just go ahead and jump into this.
Expel him. We gotta save the party. The party's hanging by a thread.
We gotta get rid of Biden.
The party's hanging by a thread. You gotta save the party. Listen, no more QAnon. No more MAGA.
No more CNN.
No more debt ceiling nonsense. Come on now. Save the party.
No, we gotta
save America. Save the children.
Save the
Do
country.
something about guns.
Right, so close
Come
the
on.
border.
Invest in
Close
education.
the border. Save the
The
children.
border is
what
what
about the
Trump
children?
left.
Hey,
What are
where
you
are all the
talking
kids?
about?
Where are all the migrant
What
children?
kids?
You guys have
We're
lost
accepting them. We love
no,
them.
you've lost
We
them.
love the
There's
migrant
tens
children.
of
What do you
thousands
mean lost
missing.
them?
You can't find them.
What are you
That's
talking
your
about?
administration.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, migrant children are missing. You don't know the news.
No, we don't know the news.
Oh, you were
That's Fox
sadly
News.
listening before.
That's
Hey,
Fox
let me
News.
tell you
Listen,
something,
I
Jamal.
need you to
Not
save
very
the party.
smart. You should pay attention. She ain't worth it, bro.
Save the party.
She ain't worth it, bro. She ain't worth it.
Okay, honestly, the first time I watched this, I didn't see AOC coming through at the end and saying she's not worth it, bro. I kind of respect that, honestly. But I'm not even going to pretend to try to dissect the actual, like, substance or lack of substance about what they were actually shouting about there. But the main thing that you got to know, I mean, perfect, you know, still right there. She's laughing along, right? She's having a good time. You know, she likes this kind of attention. She's not above it. We know the history of Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she likes to get into fights like this. You know, it's a friendly, albeit, you know, tense conversation going on right here, right? But she had a response here that was pretty hot take, I guess you could say the least. So let's go ahead and listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene's interpretation of the video that we just watched right there.
I had to have so much security. There was not enough. I was swarmed. It's all on video. Everyone can see this. But I will tell you what's on video is Jamal Bowman shouting at the top of his lungs, cursing, calling me a horrible, calling me a white supremacist, which I take great offense to. That is like calling a person of color the N-word, which should never happen. Calling me a white supremacist is equal to that, and that is wrong. Jamal Bowman was down there cursing at me, telling me to get the F out of there, and he was leading the mob right outside the vehicle I was sitting in.
Okay, so maybe she has some sort of alternate secret video that hasn't come out publicly, at least as of the time that I'm recording this video. I looked for the kinds of things that she's mentioning there, where Jamal Bowman was leading like a violent mob towards her as she was backed into a corner and yelling a bunch of, curse words at her and screaming that she's a white supremacist and all of that. But, you know, I haven't seen that video, so maybe she'll pull that out of her back pocket and we'll have a follow-up on this. But let's just back up here for a second, okay? Marjorie Taylor Greene just said that calling her, or calling a white person, a white supremacist is equal to calling a black person the N-word. She just said that, right? Okay, so I'm going to keep this really simple. I don't think that, you know, for a lot of people who are watching my channel, that really needs an in-depth conversation. I mean, we could get into, obviously, the historical context of oppression and violence that was wielded against black people in this country, and the connection that has towards the N-word, white people especially using the N-word, right? We could get into conversations about that and how, you know, the phrase white supremacist has absolutely no comparison to that whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. But I'm just going to keep it simple here. So this is a meme that has been passed around as a story has sort of been going viral, and it's basically just a still image from one of these comedy specials. I think this guy's name is John Mulaney or something like that. I don't really watch him that much, but he was correct in this take here. He says, if you're comparing the badness of two words and you won't even say one of them, that's the worst word. Yeah, I mean, it's literally that simple. There's a reason, and I wouldn't put it above her to actually say the N-word legitimately, but there's a reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene here said white supremacist in its full, and then said the N-word, okay? Because the words are not comparable. Right? You are trying to make it out as if they are equal to each other. They're not, and everybody knows that. And it's just an absurd, I guess, part of this narrative that people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and other far-right, conspiracy theorists within the Republican Party have been trying to push that, like, white people in this country are under attack and that they're the real oppressed ones and that minorities in this country just have it too good and too cozy here in the U.S. So it's just a part of that sort of narrative she's trying to sell. But then in addition to that, right, obviously taking this phrase out of the picture, right? Calling her a white supremacist. I wonder why people may do that. Could it be, stuff like this? I mean, this was something that was even called out by Mitch McConnell, okay? A guy who you could probably go on Google right now and search up pictures of him with, former members of the KKK. All right, and I'm not even kidding about that. You can go try that for yourself, right? We're talking about Mitch McConnell, and even he says that there is no space in the GOP for white supremacists or anti-Semitism. Now, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene also previously, there was that story where she was talking about like Jewish space lasers causing a massive wildfire in California, right? But this was after two House Republicans, including MTG, participated in a white nationalist conference. How do we know that this was a white nationalist conference? Well, you could look at the rhetoric, the policies that they were talking about, or you could reference the fact that Nick Fuentes, okay, the open neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes, was also a speaker at this rally that Marjorie Taylor Greene was a speaker at. I mean, listen, it's not, the point isn't just that like, oh, if you have ever been around somebody who's a racist, that makes you a racist, right? I mean, people have racist family members and whatever, maybe friends, probably shouldn't be friends with anybody who's openly racist like that, but, it wasn't just that. I mean, she was at this conference. She knows who Nick Fuentes was, and then afterwards she tried to sort of like walk it back and be like, oh, well, I didn't even really know who that guy was. It's all nonsense, okay? You're going to conferences and sharing rhetoric. The discrepancy between the rhetoric of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nick Fuentes, it's not that big of a gap. There's a gap, but it's not that big of a gap. And so this is who, you're in bed with. And then you're absolutely shocked that given your previous rhetoric, given the policies that you support, given the people that you've associated with, that people would call you a white supremacist, or at least a white supremacist sympathizer, okay? I mean, if you can't even mildly apply that label to somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, then the phrase has no meaning. I mean, who else would be a white supremacist if not for somebody who has the values, who has the rhetoric of Marjorie Taylor Greene? I mean, there you go. Again, somebody who pushes like the great replacement theory on a regular basis. I mean, we know who you are, all right? But she continues here, and it gets somehow even worse.
We have this all on video, and then on the Capitol steps yesterday, he was the one that approached me. Even CNN reported that. Yelling, shouting, raising his voice. He has aggressive, his physical mannerisms are aggressive. And he just recently shoved Thomas Massey just outside the House chamber. I think there's a lot of concern about Jamal Bowman. So, and I am concerned about it. I feel threatened by him. He not only led a mob there, but his boisterous lies. And I'll tell you another thing he said outside there. He was saying, save your party. I kept telling him, no, save the country. It's not about political parties. We shouldn't care about political parties. We should care about the country, because no matter what our political beliefs are, Jamal Bowman, I don't know what his political beliefs are. I know what mine are, but we both swore an oath to serve the country here in Congress as representatives.
Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the person who, like, on a daily basis tries to say that all Democrats are like elitist, pedophile, Satanists, okay? Now she's talking about how we need to rise above these political affiliations, right? I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I'm above all that. You are not only not above all that, you are like the most below that kind of thing that you could possibly get. Okay, I mean, talk about like somebody who likes to use broad scopes labeling of the other political party. Okay, she's like spreading the most deranged QAnon conspiracies about Democrats that you possibly could. And this is coming from somebody like myself. I don't like the Democratic Party. I'm not a fan of the leadership of Democrats, whether it's Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi or Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer. I hate all of them, but you are the person who is labeling them as all of these deranged things that aren't actual like substantive critiques of the party that would be fair to level at them. And then on top of that, I mean, she's using rhetoric about obviously a black man, Jamal Bowman, and saying that he's aggressive and threatening, and that insinuating like something needs to be done. We need to keep an eye on Jamal Bowman. I mean, I don't think that I need to tell you guys, obviously the history within this country of, white women, especially trying to significantly play up and play the victim when they're in a situation with a black male and trying to weaponize that against them. Now, Jamal Bowman had a statement that he said about this situation and about the rhetoric that she was just using right there. Here's what he had to say. This is why it is so important that we teach and know our history. There is a long tradition that Marjorie should be well aware of black men who are passionate, outspoken, and who stand their ground being characterized as threatening or intimidating. That's what happened to Emmett Till, with Mike Brown, and with so many more. Marjorie Taylor's attack is beyond a dog whistle. It's a bullhorn, and it's reckless and dangerous. She has put a target on my back. The truth of this matter is that we had a light back and forth on the steps of Capitol Hill, surrounded by reporters and staff. I mean, that's exactly what it looked like to me. We can roll back the tapes and see her characterization of our conversation is an utter and blatant lie. This is historically what white supremacists do. They try to dehumanize black people, black skin, and black humanity so that we can be targeted for harm. And I think his analysis of that is honestly completely accurate. And it's also just incredibly ironic coming from Marjorie Taylor Greene that because Jamal Bowman raised his voice when you were also raising your voice in the same clip that we just watched, that he raised his voice, that he was using hand gestures or whatever that you were also using, right? Pointing in his face and gesturing towards him, right? I mean, it was a lighthearted conversation. Again, it was tense, but it wasn't like a near violent situation or anything like that. But it's just amazing coming from somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's done shit like this in the past. Okay, you guys remember this absolutely insane clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene going up to the office of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and like in the creepiest, most stalker way imaginable, trying to talk to her through like the small slit that you would put like, I guess, mail through at her door. I mean, let's just watch this for a second and tell me if this might be interpreted as like threatening or creepy or bizarre behavior here.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I'm an American citizen. I pay your salary through the taxes that you collect from me through the IRS because I'm a tax-paying citizen of the United States. I'm a woman, I'm a female business owner, and I'm proud to be an American woman. And I do not support your socialist policies, and I do not support your murderous abortion policies. As a mother of 3 children, I'm appalled at New York's law for abortion, and it needs to end and it needs to stop now. You're bringing God's judgment on our country, and I'm against it, as well as my friends. So you need to stop being a baby and stop locking your door and come out and face the American citizens that you serve. If you want to be a big girl, you need to get rid of your diaper and come out and be able to talk to the American citizens instead of us having to use a flap, a little flap.
It's kind of like her. She's kind
Sad.
of.
I don't even know what to say about that, man. This is not normal human behavior, okay? It's not. It's weird. It's creepy. You can have disagreements with AOC. I certainly do. But you're pulling up to her office at Congress and just like whispering or yelling through the little flap in her door? What are you doing? I mean, again, she's accusing Jamal Bowman of being like a harasser or being intimidating, okay, displaying that kind of behavior. This is what she does. She also apparently in her free time, just as a reminder, likes to like follow around school shooting victims, like this guy David Hogg. Remember when she was following him around and like shouting behind him about the fact that he was going to meet with members of Congress on gun reform legislation? I mean, this is a guy who, his school was shot up when he was in high school. This is a Parkland school shooting survivor, and she is literally like chasing him down the street, yelling at him about like how it's kind of like a conspiracy and how we need to actually flood more guns into schools in order to keep them safe. I mean, obviously nothing that Marjorie Taylor Greene ever says or does should be taken seriously by anybody, okay? That could go for a lot of other members of Congress as well, but like, this is just letting your freak flag fly just way too much, okay? I mean, the conversation, we all just saw it on video, right? They had a little disagreement, they had a skirmish. Who the fuck cares? Move on with your life. But instead, she's choosing to double down, try to play the victim, act as if Jamal Bowman is like a threat to her safety or something like that, which if anything, that would apply 10 times more 100 times more, infinitely more to you, Marjorie Taylor Greene, than it ever would to Jamal Bowman, who's like one of the most peaceful guys ever, okay? And then on top of that, making these comparisons after insisting she's not a white supremacist, she's not a racist, right? Making these bizarre connections between the phrase white supremacist and the N-word, okay? I mean, this is who Marjorie Taylor Greene is. Obviously, you know, I don't like talking about her that much on this channel, but this really just stood out to me as a perfect example of how deranged some of our members of Congress are. I mean, this is somebody who represents my own home state of Georgia.
Everyone is saying good Politic guy has the best Politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying